The voice memo titled Delete After. I didn't mean to press play. The phone did the cruel, courteous thing it does when you touch something for too long. It opened. A small gray waveform unfurled on the screen, title at the top like a wink from someone who thinks you'll forgive them for being obvious. Delete after. I was looking for a recipe. My wife, Mara, had told me to check our shared notes for the lemon cake we pretend is effortless. Instead, I landed in the file tree of her voice memos, the place where ideas go when her hands have flour on them. I told myself it was a shopping list. Then the recording blinked once, and a man's voice, warm, low, the practiced kindness money buys, said, "Push first, the lock sticks." Her laugh followed. I know all her laughs. The private snort, the polite elevator chime, the quiet gratitude that sits low in her throat. This one was the balcony laugh, the one she used in our first week on the roof of her old building when the city felt like drunk test audience applause. The laugh that means she's about to say yes. I pressed pause so hard my thumb stumbled. Silence pooled. I could see my reflection in the black glass and did not like it. My name is Eli. I design acoustics for theaters that want you to believe in whispering. I know exactly how far sound travels when a door refuses to cooperate. I didn't press play again. I walked to the kitchen and made coffee that tasted like a decision. On the counter, the lemon we'd meant to zest sat with the patience of fruit. The daylight performed honesty on the tile. I put my phone face down like that could turn it into a broom. Mara came out with sleep still in her hair, wearing my t-shirt, the collar loose from months of negotiations about who owns clothes in a house where everything is supposed to be shared. She kissed me, mouth soft and certain, and said, "Big install today. Don't let me forget the cord bag." I poured coffee for us both and said, "What were you going to delete?" She blinked the way people do when the dream hasn't left their eyes yet and reality arrives with an invoice. Then she exhaled and held my gaze like it was heavy enough to steady the room. "Kitchen or small room?" she asked. "We have a small room, a corner with an ugly lamp and a rug we forgive. It's where we talk when we want to remember we like each other more than we like being right." "Kitchen," I said. "I need the humiliation of appliances watching." She laughed once, honest and ragged. "I recorded a memo last night because I was trying to figure out how to say a thing without making it worse by rehearsing it," she said. "I named it something stupid so I'd be forced to confront the fact that wanting to hide a sentence doesn't make it less mine." "Whose lock sticks?" I asked. "His name is Casper," she said, choosing the courtesy of the present tense and hatting herself for it. "Sponsor, old friend, not a stranger. We were at the Linden. Remember the mezzanine you hate because it makes footsteps sound like regrets? He wanted to show me the sight lines for the gala. He has a way of orienting rooms that makes you feel like saying yes is competent." And I said, "And I kissed him," she said. "Once. Terribly. Like two adults trying to audition for teenagers and failing. Then I recorded myself in the stairwell because I didn't trust later me to remember how stupid it felt." "And the lock," I said, though I knew, because doors everywhere use the same verbs. "He said that line to make me laugh," she said. "It did, that's on me." We ate lemon cake we hadn't earned because it turns out sugar is a friend to the embarrassed. At some point, she reached across the table and placed her palm over the shaky part of my wrist, and I let my blood keep going. "I want you to ask me the question you're trying to get out of your mouth without giving it teeth," she said. "Do you want him?" I asked, jaw feeling suddenly like a stranger. "I want the gate I have near him," she said. "The version of me that forgets to curate herself. But I do not want his hands. Yours are the ones that know how to set the room and then leave. I could have become a noble man then. Men do that in better stories. Instead, I reached for her with both hands, pulled her into me by the waist of my t-shirt on her body, and found her mouth with the urgency of someone who prefers evidence to narration. She answered with a sound from that good low place, relief braided with heat. We didn't save ourselves with the kiss. We reminded the house whose names to say. We stopped before the part where stopping turns into punishment. She stood against the counter breathing like a person who had survived a swim and wasn't ashamed of how long she'd been underwater. "We'll talk tonight," she said. "Text me if your brain starts narrating without your permission. I'll tell it a different story." At the theater, I tried to make a door sound like it belonged to a house that never tried to lie. A director asked if I could make rain feel like forgiveness. I told him forgiveness is a price point. Rain is a texture. My phone buzzed with an email from the Linden, reminding us that their roof was perfect for beginnings. I almost forwarded it to my worst self. At lunch, I pressed play again because talent is a punishment. The memo was 18 seconds. After the line about the lock, there was air and then Mara's voice, small, private, untheatrical, saying, "I'm going to tell Eli. Future me, don't pick the version where you sound noble. Pick the version where you sound like a person who wants the house she lives in." I closed my eyes and rested my forehead on the cool glass of the booth window. I texted her, "Small room at 8, she wrote back. "Bring the ugly lamp. I need brutal honesty lighting." At 7, I stopped at the Linden and stood in the mezzanine where they'd been. It always smells like ambition and citrus. I pressed my palm to the balcony rail like I was taking the pulse of a scene. People with the kind of money that makes them a little tired floated past. I went home, which is a verb I'm trying to do on purpose now. Mara was already in the small room, legs folded under her like a person who decided not to apologize for needing comfort. She wore the dress I married her in, not because she's sentimental, but because she knows quality cotton makes me reasonable. "Tell me the part that hurts like a joke you can't stop telling," she said. "It's that I recognize the laugh," I said. "The balcony one. The version of you that feels like a door has been opened for her and enjoys the fact of it before she remembers what rooms are like." She nodded. "Me too," she said. "I've been trying not to miss her just because she behaves badly when unchaperoned." We did the paperwork of love, rules on the back of a takeout menu because formal documents make me itchy. She wrote, "If I want balcony, I text balcony and you get first refusal." I wrote, "If you want to kiss someone to learn you don't want to, you tell me before your mouth does the field work." She added, "Truth before plaque," and we laughed because we both hate memorials and love brushing our teeth. The next night, the sponsor sent flowers to the studio with a note so neat it had to be expensive. "You glow when you're not managing anything." She texted me a picture and wrote, "Returning these with a 'you don't get to narrate me' sticker." I sent back a sticker of a lemon. She replied with a house. He didn't stop because men like that believe persistence is romance. He sent another voice memo to her email, 43 seconds of apology that auditioned for decent and almost got the part. She forwarded it to me, CC'd BCC'd, and then called. "Do you want to be in the room when I call him?" she asked. "Or do you want the result?" "The room," I said, hatting and respecting myself for it. We stood in the studio with the monitors off and the bad fluorescent giving everyone a fair trial. She hit dial. He picked up on the second ring with a polite M, like a password. "You don't get to nickname me," she said. "We made a small bad decision. We will not make it interesting. Don't send objects to my workplace. Don't send sentences to my inbox. If you feel charitable, send money to the youth program you keep calling the pipeline. He said, soft and practiced, I misread the air. You sniffed it like dinner, she said. Be well. She hung up and pressed her forehead to my sternum, and I felt the tiny tremor she never lets the room see. I put my palm on the back of her head like a man who knows the weight he can hold. We survived by boredom for a while, good boredom, the kind that comes from eating pasta on Tuesdays and telling the truth on Thursdays. When she needed heat, she stood in the kitchen and said storm, and I set my hands on her hips the way you steady a ladder. When I needed quiet, I put my hand at the back of her neck and she turned off the tap and leaned. We practiced. I recommend it. Of course we saw him again. The city is petty. It was a museum opening for a show about glass pretending to be water. He looked well, which irritated me more than it should have. He nodded at us like a person who had finally discovered the usefulness of exits. He said, "Good evening," in a voice auditioned for not drama. We nodded back with exactly the amount of oxygen we had for him. Later, under the same roof, Mara pressed her mouth to my ear and said, "Take me home," and there is no sexier sentence in any language. We didn't hurry. We were deliberate. In the small room under the ugly lamp, we made out with the kind of attention that keeps fires from asking for applause. She straddled me, dress riding up, the safety and danger of her weight pinning me to the rug. Her mouth moved like she wanted to prove precision is hotter than spectacle. I slid my hands up under cotton and learned again the topography neither time nor sponsors can revise. When she said my name, it was the version that means stay here. We stopped before we could pretend sex is a sacrament. We let it be what it is when it's best, a language we've earned. A week later, the theater sent me to tune the Linden for a panel about beginnings. It felt like a dare. I walked the mezzanine and whispered into corners to see what came back. I took half a decibel from the room and gave it to the air. On my break, I found a matchbook on the balcony rail, navy blue embossed gold, the kind that thinks it's a credential. I took a photo, texted it to Mara with the caption, "Returning contraband." She wrote back, "Burn the narrative." I flicked one match and watched it flare, then die, a reversible action I could finally forgive. Not everything stayed fixed. On a Tuesday at 1:11 a.m., my phone lit the room with a calendar alert I didn't remember setting. Off-site balcony test. I lay there feeling the muscle in my jaw announce itself. I counted 4 breaths, then another 4. I texted her, "Storm." She wrote back, 2 seconds later, "Now." I went to the kitchen and met her there in bare feet, and we kissed like we owed nobody an explanation. The phone lit the counter with the alert, until it decided to go dark without help. There is no grand betrayal in this story that you can take to your gossip. There's just a tiny one with a door and a bad laugh and a woman who decided not to pretend she had better taste in self-sabotage than she does. There's a man who learned to look at proof without making it religion. There's a house with an ugly lamp and a cake we keep baking because practice is the only magic we've got. Sometimes late, I open the memo and let it move without sound. Her hand lifts, the light shifts, the air remembers. I keep the audio muted not because I'm afraid, but because I know the line by heart and I don't need it to teach me anything anymore. The file's title still says delete after. I haven't. Not because I like pain, because artifacts keep me honest. We earned the right to leave it there unplayed. We earned our room. Last night she woke at 2:03, slid her hand under my shirt and said, half asleep, "Don't start without me." I smiled into the dark because some lines are doors that never stop working. "Then come here," I said. She did, and in the small lamp's ugly light, we made the sound that makes a house remember what it's protecting.